Slamming down in turn 1 a Chalice of the Void or a Blood Moon or a Twin Spear or an Ensnaring Bridge doesn't prove to be game winning, no, tournament winning, even a GP.
He is going to meet the assembled hordes. Look at them go. They can't believe his luck.
That's the most beautiful. That's the most beautiful scene I've seen
one of the
after
most
GP final.
special moments I've ever seen in the GP. We've been doing this for years, Raphael Levy, and I'll tell you what, I've never seen a moment quite like this.
That's
On almost home soil in England here. He'll take it, I suppose. The Scot, the proud Scot, Gary Campbell, hoists the trophy.
Hi there folks, I'm Gary Campbell. Welcome to MTG Foil, and I hope you enjoy another beautiful Legacy Foil Prison deck.
Thank you Gary Campbell for kicking off my Mono Red Prison Legacy deck. It's probably one of the most expensive Legacy decks you will ever see on YouTube. It's the most beautiful deck that I own, and I'm very pleased to share it with you guys with the rest of the world. Mono Red Prison by MTG Foil. Let's start with the mana base. It's a Mono Red Prison deck, so we're running 7 basic mountains. Ancient Tomb, land. Tap it, adds 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. Ancient Tomb do 2 damage to you. Although it has a downside tapping it that it will hurt our life total, it's very good at ramping up mana on our first turn to slam down a Blood Moon or put down Chalice of the Void, or help us to put down a Planeswalker turn 1 in some cases. Ancient Tomb, 4 off. Ladies and gentlemen, the first non-foil card ever presented on MTG Foil is the City of Traitors. They actually do exist foil, but these are test print runs, so they've never been released officially, therefore not tournament legal, so there was no way for me to put it into this deck, although it doesn't really matter to me because it will save me $50,000 for each copy. City of Traitor, land. If you play a land, sacrifice City of Traitors. Tap it, adds 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. Although it has a huge downside, playing any land after City of Traitors we need to sacrifice it. We've got actually a nifty tool built in our deck to prevent this. City of Traitors can help us explode the first turn. A 4 off. Shadowskull the Hammer Pass, a land. As Shadowskull the Hammer Pass enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 lives. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. It taps for 1 red mana. Flip it and it turns into Shadowskull Smashing. 2 red, 1x, sorcery. Shadowskull Smashing deals X damage divided as you choose among up to 2 target creatures and or planeswalkers. If X is 6 or more, Shadowskull Smashing deals twice X damage divided as you choose among them instead. Shadowskull Smashing and Shadowskull the Hammer Pass is a very versatile card, which has the downside that it deals 3 damage early game if you want to play it untapped. Nevertheless, this card can deal with a lot of threats played by your opponent, so we're running a 3 off. The last land in our deck is a Dark Depths, legendary snowland. Dark Depths enters the battlefield with 10 ice counters on it. Pay 3, remove an ice counter from Dark Depths. When Dark Depths has no ice counters on it, sacrifice it. If you do, create a Marlage, a legendary 2020 black avatar creature token with flying and indestructible. We're running 2 Dark Depths. As an insurance, we play a Dark Depths after casting a Blood Moon or a Blood Sun. So if our opponent wants to destroy our Blood Moon or a Blood Sun, they have to deal with Marlage. Although Dark Depths doesn't tap for any mana, it can actually produce a red mana with a Blood Moon on the battlefield. Plus there are some nifty ways in our deck to remove our own Blood Moon or Blood Sun and turn our Dark Depth in a Marlage. And if our opponent cannot deal with Marlage, we won the game. Dark Depths, 2 off. Now we come to the artifacts. Chalice of the Void, XX. Artifact. Chalice of the Void enters the battlefield with X counters on it. Whenever a player casts a spell with a converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on Chalice of the Void, counter that spell. We're trying to resolve Chalice of the Void at turn 1, with at least 1 counter on it. Chalice of the Void is one of our main lock pieces, which will prevent our opponent to cast any removal spells for our creatures, damage spells for our life total and planeswalkers. A Chalice of the Void with 1 counter on turn 1 is in most cases game winning. We're able to pull this off thanks to an Ancient Tomb or a City of Traitors. Chalice of the Void, a 4 off. Chromox, 0 mana. Artifact, Imprint. When Chromox enters the battlefield, you may exile non-artifact, non-land card from your hand. Tap it at 1 mana of any of the exiled card's color to your mana pool. Having this in your opening hand with an Ancient Tomb or a City of Traitors will provide you 3 mana at your first turn simply by exiling one of your red cards in your deck. Chromox make a Chalice of the Void at turn 1 or a Blood Moon or a Planeswalker very possible. Chromox, 4 Trini Spear, 3 colorless, artifact. As long as Trini Spear is untapped, each spell that would be cost less than 3 mana to cast costs 3 mana to cast. Trini Spear is a very good card against a lot of decks, especially if you can slam it down at turn 1. Most likely our opponent doesn't have anything to do at the first 2 or 3 turns, which gives us a huge advantage by locking our opponent. Trini Spear at 3 Ensnaring Bridge, 3 colorless, artifact. Creatures with power greater than the number of cards in your hand can't attack. If we've got 2 cards in our hand, any creature with power more than 2 cannot attack, which will defend our life total and our Planeswalkers. Ensnaring Bridge at 3 Now we come to our enchantments. Blood Moon, 2 colorless, 1 red enchantment. Non-basic lands are mountains. Legacy is a format filled with dual lands, shock lands, fetch lands, wastelands, dark depths. A lot of decks cannot handle a Blood Moon at turn 1 and we're preying on those decks. Resolving a Blood Moon at turn 1 is in some cases an instant win. Blood Moon, 4 Blood Sun, 2 colorless, 1 red enchantment. When Blood Moon enters the battlefield, draw a card. All lands lose all abilities except mana abilities. This enchantment will prevent a lot of abilities in Legacy like a Wasteland ability, Ghost Quarters. It will shut down our own downside of the City of Traitors. We don't longer have to sacrifice our City of Traitors by playing another land when City of Traitors is on the battlefield. Blood Sun, a very underrated card in Legacy. Although Blood Sun and Blood Moon also affect our own lands, we're running basically a mono red deck, so we're still able to cast anything in our deck. Blood Sun, a 2 Now we come to our one and only sorcery in our deck, Fire and Confluence. 2 colorless, 2 red, sorcery. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Mode 1, Fire and Confluence deal 1 damage to each creature. Mode 2, Fire and Confluence deal 2 damage to each opponent. And Mode 3, destroy target artifact. Fire and Confluence is a very versatile card. It presents a board wipe, it presents 6 damage to your opponent, plus it can destroy 3 artifacts. Also, Fiery Confluence can help us remove our own Blood Moon or Blood Sun, and then releasing the Merit Lage 2020 token from the Dark Depths land after we have turned a Blood Moon or a Blood Sun into an artifact. More about that later. Fiery Confluence, a 2 Now we come to our creature spells. Simian Spirit Guide, 2 colorless, 1 red, Creature Ape Spirit. Exile Simian Spirit Guide from your hand, add 1 red mana to your mana pool. Basically, this ability is actually why we're playing it in our deck. By having a Simian Spirit Guide in your opening hand, we can ramp up mana. We can actually try to cast one of our lock pieces at turn 1. Nevertheless, it will be not the first or the last time I've killed my opponent simply by attacking with Simian Spirit Guide. It can also protect our Planeswalkers from attackers. Simian Spirit Guide, 4 Goblin Rebel Master, 2 colorless, 1 red. Other goblin creatures you control attack each turn if able. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, put a 1/1 goblin creature token with haste onto the battlefield. Whenever Goblin Rebel Master attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each other attacking goblin. If our opponent cannot deal with Goblin Rebel Master fast, it will go out of hand quickly. Most likely a lot of our opponents cannot handle with Goblin Rebel Master if we've got a Chalice of the Void on 1, countering for example Lightning Bolt or a Sword of the Plowshares and many other removal spells. Goblin Rebel Master, a 4 The last creature spell in our deck, Fury, 3 colorless, 2 red, Creature Elemental Incarnation. Double Strike. When Fury enters the battlefield, it deals 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers. Evoke. Exile a red card from your hand. Fury is a very versatile card fitting in our deck. It can help us kill early threats like a Talia Lieutenant vs Death and Taxes. It can also help keeping planeswalkers in check. Plus the 3 base power and double strike is very nice. If we've got an Ensnarer Bridge on the battlefield, we only have to keep 3 cards in our hand to deal 6 damage to our opponent or a Planeswalker he owns. Fury, a 2-off. Now we come to the Planeswalkers, basically the win condition in our deck. Chandra Torch of Defiance. 2 colorless, 2 red. Legendary Planeswalker Chandra. +1. Exile the top card of your library. You may cast that card. If you don't, Chandra Torch of Defiance deal 2 damage to each opponent. +1. Add 2 red mana. -3. Chandra Torch of Defiance deal 4 damage to target creature. And -7. You get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell, this emblem deals 5 damage to target creature or player. This emblem is gold plated by one of the best foil peel altars, Kevin Lepage. If you're interested in the work of Kevin Lepage, there's a link in the video description that leads to his Facebook page. Chandra Torch of Defiance, very versatile Planeswalker that can provide us cards, that adds mana and can deal with a lot of creatures. Plus when the emblem is out, you basically have won the game. Chandra Torch of Defiance, a 4-off. Now we come to the last playset in this deck, it's Karn the Great Creator. 4 colorless. Legendary Planeswalker card. Activated abilities of artifacts your opponent controls cannot be activated. +1. Until your next turn, up to 1 target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness equal to its converted mana cost. -2. You may choose an artifact card you own from outside of the game or in exile. Review that card and put it in your hand. Basically, Karn the Great Creator turns our sideboard into our wish board. Plus it's an excellent lock piece for a lot of decks that running a lot of artifacts. For example, Chrome Moxes, Lotus Petals, or basically any artifact that our opponent owns gets shut down by Karn the Great Creator. Karn the Great Creator, a 4-off. So this is the main board of my Legacy Mono Red Prison deck. Let's switch to the sideboard, which is basically a wish board thanks to Karn the Great Creator.
Yes, yes, the deck is amazing. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, okay, okay. Bye bye.
Welcome to the sideboard, although we can call it actually a wish board. Thanks of Karn the Great Creator 4 times in the main board, which is minus ability, which says you may choose an artifact card you own from outside the game or in exile. Review that card and put it in your hand. Start off with Tormod Script. 0 mana, artifact. Tap it, sacrifice Tormod Script, remove target player's graveyard from the game. By fetching a Tormod Script, we can keep our opponent's graveyard in control. Nevertheless, it happened a few times that I actually fetched Tormod Script to exile my own graveyard to retrieve artifacts by Karn the Great Creator, which also let me fetch cards from exile. Plus having the Chandra Torch of Defiance emblem into play, casting a Tormod Script for 0 mana deals 5 damage to any target. So believe it or not, it actually made me win games by casting Tormod Script and dealing 5 damage to my opponent. Tormod Script, a 1-off. Cursed Totem, 2 colorless, artifact. Activated abilities of creatures cannot be activated. A great card for any tribal decks or any decks that running a lot of creatures with activated abilities. Cursed Totem, a 1-off in the sideboard. Torpor Orb, 2 colorless, artifact. Creatures entering the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. An amazing card for tribal decks like Goblins, or Dead and Taxes, Eldrazi decks, humans, a lot of tribal decks getting shut down by Torpor Orb. We're running 2-off, 1 to put main board after sideboarding, and we keep always 1 in the sideboard so we can fetch it with Karn the Great Creator. Liquid Metal Coating, 2 colorless, artifact. Tap it, target permanent becomes an artifact in addition to its other types until end of turn. With the Karn the Great Creator on the battlefield, Liquid Metal Coating can shut down Planeswalkers from opponents, lands from opponents, and even activated abilities from creatures that our opponent controls by having a Karn the Great Creator's passive ability, which has activated abilities of artifacts your opponent controls can be activated. Also, you can easily win a game with Liquid Metal Coating. If we're able to cast a Karn the Great Creator at turn 1, we can fetch Liquid Metal turn 1, cast it turn 2 and start destroying the lands that our opponent controls simply by using the plus ability from Karn, which says until your next turn, up to one target's non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness equal to its converted mana cost. So basically, if we turn with liquid metal coating a land from our opponent into an artifact and we plus it, making it a 0/0 creature, which will make the land die. Also, this is the card which makes it possible to destroy our own Blood Moon or our own Blood Sun, which will release the Marital Age from our dark depths. Liquid metal coating, a 1-off. Sorcerer's Spyglass, 2 colorless artifact. As Sorcerer's Spyglass enters the battlefield, look at an opponent's hand and choose a card name. Activated abilities of the source with the chosen name cannot be activated unless they're mana abilities. Sorcerer's Spyglass can be an answer against any activated shenanigans that our opponent can pull off against us. A 1-off. Another Ensnaring Bridge. 3 colorless artifact, creatures with power greater than the number of cards in your hand can't attack. By putting 1 Ensnaring Bridge in our sideboard, having 3 in the main board and having 4 Garnet Grade Creators in our main board, we're running basically 7 Ensnaring Bridges main board. Mycos of Lattice, 6 colorless, artifact. All permanents are artifacts in addition to their other types. All cards that aren't in play, spells and permanents are colorless. Players may spend mana as though it were mana of any color. Resolving a Mycos of Lattice with a Garnet Grade Creator in play will disable the activated ability from lands to make mana. It will disable any activated ability that our opponent can pull off, because simply everything has become an artifact. If we're able to protect Garnet Grade Creator from any attackers and Mycos of Lattice is on the battlefield, we've won the game. Mycos of Lattice, a 1-off. That was the wish board, now we come actually to the sideboard. Leyline of the Void. 2 black, 2 colorless. Enchantment. If Leyline of the Void is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. If a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. By having 4 of these Leylines in our sideboard, after boarding it in our main board, we can aggressively mulligan and looking for the Leyline of the Void. When we do find it, against Grizzlebrand, Delver, Reanimator, Hogak, Storm, we basically have won the game. Plus we don't really have to be afraid to be stuck with it in our hands by not having any black mana. Thanks to Chromox, we can actually imprint it and make more mana with it. Kozilek returns, 2 colorless, 1 red. Instant, Devoid, this card has no color. Kozilek's return deals 2 damage to each creature. This line is not relevant for our deck. Whenever you cast an Eldrazi creature spell with converted mana cost 7 or greater, you may exile Kozilek's return from your graveyard. If you do, Kozilek's return deals 5 damage to each creature. We're running a 2-off for a mirror match to destroy any Goblin Rebel Masters, for land attacks and human decks, because of a lot of creatures are running protection from red. This is actually the answer against creatures with protection from red. Kozilek return, a 2-off. The last card in our sideboard, Chandra Awakened Inferno. The last card in our sideboard, Chandra Awakened Inferno. 4 colorless, 2 red, legendary Planeswalker Chandra. This spell cannot be countered. +2, each opponent gets an emblem with, at the beginning of your upkeep, this emblem deals 1 damage to you. Once again, a gold-plated altar by Kevin Lepage. If you're interested in these beautiful altars, there's a link in the video description where you can check out his work. -3, Chandra Awakened Inferno deals 3 damage to each non-elemental creature. And -X, Chandra Awakened Inferno deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker. If a permanent dealt damage this way would die, exile it instead. Reboarding in Chandra Awakened Inferno against control matchups, plus it's another board wipe against any creature heavy deck. Chandra Awakened Inferno is a beast in Legacy. If you did like this beautiful Legacy Mono Red Prison deck, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more awesome deck decks video in the near future. Thank you for watching, see you in the next deck video.